Welcome, everybody. June 21st. John Aravosis here at the Aravosis Report. Sorry I didn't set up the room until a second ago. So I think people are going to be arriving a little late because I just went to start the show and went, I never even set up the show. So sorry about that. Welcome, everybody. Let me get the TikTokers rolling here on my iPad. Excellent. Excellent. Hold on. There's TikTok. Fabulous. Reverse mirror. Fabulous. Now let's see. I can still do the fun. I can still do the swiping TikTok thing where I can see all the comments in big font. Yay. Anyway, it's a good day. Oh, hello, everybody. Like I said, I don't know what I was thinking today. I just didn't schedule it. I was feeling tired today and I forgot to have my iced tea. I know. Paula, I was being a goof. I literally went to start the show and realized I had never set up the show. So so sorry, everybody. Welcome. As always, we're going to wait a few minutes for folks to arrive because, of course, I forgot to tell people we were even doing this. So anyway. Anyhow, let me see. Is TikTok even on? I got TikTok rolling, but TikTok looks like it's not. Oh, God. TikTok, what are you doing? TikTok is on, but now it's notifying people. TikTok went on for like the last minute, not telling people I was here. Hello. Oh, hey guys. TikTok was being evil. They weren't telling people I was here. Anyway, welcome everybody. We will start the show in a second. Thank you, Susan. Glad you're here as well. As always, just start a little slow. But as always, we'll wait a minute or two for folks to arrive, especially since TikTok was like not telling anybody I was live. I was live for a good minute before TikTok even told anybody. And the rest of you over on YouTube, etc. Hey guys, please feel free to introduce yourselves, say where you are from. And yes, I am wearing the map t-shirt today because Crusher, one of our members, what do we call ourselves, by the way? Are we members? What do we? I don't know what to call you guys. Thank you for the gift there. Who is that? Tomcat? Like what are we? We're not a club. You know what I mean? Like we need a name for ourselves. Dom, I did not die, but thank you for asking. No, but Crusher, one of us, went and got me. Oh, thank you, Tom, for that. Went and got me a flag T-shirt so I can actually wear one now. Because my comrades, I don't think, Aravosians might work. Comrades, I don't think quite works for us. But yeah, so I now have a flag T-shirt as the shirt I can wear. Thank you, Mustard. As a shirt I can wear, thanks to Crusher, because as you know, the two flag T-shirts I have are already serving as maps. But it's a very nice, accurate map of Ukraine. Makes me very happy. Anyway, I know I told people Aravosians sounds like the branch Aravosians, like everyone's going to drink the Kool-Aid or something. Hey, Carol, thank you for that. Any case, guys, welcome. As always, maybe we'll wait another 30 seconds for folks. Maybe we can get, I kind of like the TikTok number to get to 700 visitors before I start, but I'm not going to push it. So 600, we're going to hit 600, YouTube, etc. All right, there we go. We're over 600. Okay, I'll start now. Anyway, welcome everybody. John Aravosis here with the Aravosis Report. This is my show Monday to Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, U.S., where we talk about the latest news from Ukraine. As always, I very much welcome your gifts on TikTok and your gifts on YouTube. Super chat questions, super stickers, because I do this for a living. So your gifts help pay my bills. So please do keep it coming. The TikTok gifts, I will always do a shout out for the big, like the little itty bitty gifts. There's too many of them. Thank you, Sam. But I will always try to do a shout out with the bigger gifts that pop up because the small ones, literally, they're nonstop. I could do a whole show just thanking you guys, which I would at some point. But anyway, so the big gifts, I will thank you guys when I see them. And for the rest of you there, super chat, super stickers, I will shout out those as well. And super chats, I will do a, what was I going to say? Oh, super chat questions. Yes, for super chat questions, I will make them the next question. Thank you. Who's that? Martin, maybe with the heart there. I think that was Martin. Thank you, Martin. So there you go. So if you do a super chat question, we will jump right in. All right, let me get rolling, guys. So grab my notes. Welcome. Today is day 482 of Vladimir Putin's special 3-day military operation in Ukraine. Obviously not going so well. Um, Kyiv suffered a major drone attack last night, the capital, with drones, obviously, entering the city in waves and from different directions. The Ukrainians say 30 drones were shot at them by the Russians, and they shot down 28. Thank you, Chad. As I've told you, I'm wearing the shirt. It looks good. Right size. You got the right size as well, the medium. Thank you. Russia says it downed 3 drones outside of Moscow today. This is kind of interesting. Very interesting. So the Russians say that 2 drones were down. Let me see this. 2 drones were headed towards warehouses of a local military unit, were brought down outside of Moscow, and the wreckage of a third was found about 12 miles from the site of the crash. Sounds like, well, again, I mean, in the end, we don't quite know who's doing this, but we do, of course, suspect it's Ukraine. Good. Actually, I'm actually glad to see that it looked like they were going after warehouses, because it's not a bad thing actually for the Ukrainians to try to freak out the Russians. I do think there's probably some. I'm not sure what I said before on this, but the more I think about it, there is some psychological benefit in the Ukrainians just getting the drones to Moscow, because it shows they can do it. It would have been better had they actually hit the military warehouses, but even being able to get that close is good, because it freaks the Russians out and makes them spend more time trying to, stop it. Thank you, Crazy American. Ukrainian troops, as far as a counteroffensive update, as always, I think every day, hey, Cobra, good to see you. Hope you're feeling well. Every day, we're going to get little crumbs of an update. Thank you, Gary. Little crumbs of an update, and I would block me. Thank you for that, too. As far as what's going on with the counteroffensive. A lot of it, well, 2 reasons, actually. One of them is it's not going to go that fast. This is going to be measured out in months. It's not going to be measured out in days. I was reading something earlier today, and I forgot the exact number, but the Ukrainian battle to get Kherson, okay, to get back this region here, took them, I'm trying to think, it was easily 5-6 months. I mean, it was a long time before they were able to liberate Kherson. And they were trying for about 5 or 6 months. And that was a small sliver of land that they were able to liberate. So, it depends. It depends. And I do see the update that Adventures with Crystal is giving. I'm actually going to be talking about that in a second, so it's on my list. But in any case, what we do know about updates is Ukrainian troops have managed to take some ground towards Melitopol and Berdyansk. In the general direction, Melitopol is here, Berdyansk is down here. Obviously, they're not down here, right? Ukrainian troops are more or less up here. They're not down here or down here. The Russians are controlling down here. But in the direction of both of those cities, Ukraine was able to get a little more land, which is good. Their military announced today. Ukraine's deputy defense ministers also said today that the biggest blow of the Ukrainian counteroffensive is yet to come. Now, couple that, this was Sky News had sort of tied this together. Couple that with former Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko, who told Sky News this morning that 70% of Ukraine's offensive forces were yet to be deployed. Now, that's important. Thank you, TikTok Novice, for the hat. That's important because this counteroffensive, as I said, this counteroffensive is not I'm trying to sort of step back and say this well. Thank you, Nicholas. The fighting that is taking place right now in the counteroffensive, which pretty much is happening 3 areas mostly, okay? One of them's around here around Bakhmut, another one here southwest of Donetsk, this one more or less in the direction of Mariupol, a key city, and the third one over here-ish, where my finger is, in the direction of Melitopol, or Berdyansk, okay? Each of those are not necessarily the big attack. What I mean is, we know that Ukraine is testing and probing at the moment. They're trying to test the Russian defenses, see how good they are. And in fact, what Ukraine has learned in the last week and a half is that actually we may even be up to, are we up to 2 weeks now? We're not 1 week. I already keep forgetting this. Are we 1 week into the counteroffensive or 2? I think we're 2 weeks, right? I'm like losing track of the time here. But regardless, the Ukraine is still testing the Russian 2 weeks. That's what I thought. Thanks, Ash. Ukraine's testing the Russian defenses to see how good they are, to see if the Russians crumble, what's going on. And they've learned that the Russians are actually doing some pretty good, strong defenses. That sucks, but it still is helpful intelligence. which is also why some of it, as we'd heard, was perhaps that Ukraine has slowed down a little bit and kind of regrouping, trying to figure out, okay, and frankly, talking to the Americans and the Germans and all the other, generals in the West as to what should they do to maybe change strategy a little if the Russians are actually doing better than we expected, right? In any case, the point here is that 70% of Ukraine's forces have still not been put into play. This is only 30% that's fighting right now. That's on purpose because this isn't, I guess my point is, this isn't the big blow. This isn't the big attack that's happening right now. Now, it would still be better if Ukraine was having better advances right now. Yes. But, this is not the big attack yet. And anyway, the Ukrainians came out and sort of reiterated that today. As far as NATO and Ukraine joining NATO, yesterday I was saying that there was news that the French appeared to be indicating that they were coming around on Ukraine joining NATO, which is good. And they were thinking that, sort of the French thinking, President Macron's thinking was that if France comes out in favor of Ukraine joining NATO, then that will put pressure on Russia to join the negotiations, because currently Russia doesn't want to, and it will entice Ukraine to join in negotiations, because if Ukraine feels, thank you, down to earth for the gift, if Ukraine feels that, if Ukraine knows that it will be able to join NATO after the war ends, however the war ends, the war could end with Ukraine winning, it could end with Ukraine losing, it could end with a tie, right? Who knows? But if Ukraine knows that when the war ends, it will be allowed to join NATO, then Ukraine is perhaps more likely to reach a negotiated settlement. Because the biggest concern, basically, and I've said this myself, the biggest concern for Ukraine, if I were Ukrainian, is you do not, thank you, Marcy, for the hat. There is no guarantee Russia won't attack again. Russia signed treaties already, or international agreements. Back in 1994, Ukraine got rid of its nuclear weapons. Russia promised in exchange not to attack. And what did Russia do? Attack Ukraine in 2014, stole Crimea in the south, Crimea down here, and attacked last year and stole all of this land. Russia's promises on paper mean nothing. I will say the West's promises on paper, they don't mean nothing, but they're not enough. The West had promised, it was the Brits, the Americans, and I think the French as well, had promised on paper that we would, I believe we were helping to sort of guarantee the peace, even though it was a vague promise we made back in 1994. Well, Russia invaded in 2014 and we didn't do anything there. Thank you, Paige. Russia then invades last year. We did a hell of a lot more, but as you know, it's been very gradual, right? And even now with the F-16s, we learned yesterday that, well, the U.S. announced that we're not actually going to pick which country is even going to do the training for Ukraine for the F-16s. Thank you, Ellie. Until months from now. It's not just going to take months to do the training. The U.S. announced yesterday, it's going to take months for the U.S. to pick which country will do the training. That's ridiculous. And that, to me, is evidence of Biden, once again, fearful of Putin, I think, and slowing things down. Especially because Biden said this week, we learned at a private donor meeting or donor fundraiser that Putin's threat to use nukes is real. Well, that's that in line with why the F-16s seem to be slowed down again, right? In any case, so the latest news today is that the UK and the French have signaled that they are on board with basically speeding up Ukraine's NATO membership. And what I mean by that is there's a process you've got to go through PB&J, you must not have been here yesterday. PB&J is saying on the other site, they haven't yet started training. Seriously? Correct. Thank you, Cheryl, for the hat. Ukraine has started or hopefully will start training with the Brits, with, I believe, the Danes and some others. Thank you, Cheryl. But they will not be training on F-16s. They will not even be training to use F-16s. So in other words, flight trainers. The U.S. has to give the European countries permission to use to train, thank you, Martin, to train Ukrainians on F-16s or how to use F-16s. Okay? We have not only not given them permission yet, but we said yesterday it's going to take months for the US to decide which NATO country should get the right to give that training. I mean, it's absolute, like I said, there's words in Greek for this, malachias. I don't know what it would be. In English, it's BS in a way. It's this runaround. It's just BS. Absolutely ridiculous. In any case, so what the Brits are saying is there's a process for joining NATO. And I don't want to give you, I mean, I'm the expert on all of this, but there's something called the MAP, and it's I think it's a member action plan. It's called. I'm looking here to see if I even, I think that's what it's called, and that what the Brits and now the French are saying is they would be willing to skip the member action plan portion of NATO membership, where basically thank you, Frenchie, for the gift. The prospective NATO member has to have an action plan of all the things they need to do to sort of show, that they're getting their military. I don't even know all the details. It's all the things they need to do to make it. It's similar to the EU, except it's military. So for the European Union, you've got to make all of your laws and regulations and everything in your commercial sector to sync with the European rules, right? Well, it's kind of the military version of that. You've got to get your military up to par and, so they can interact with NATO, whatever. In any case, bottom line is this was skipped for Sweden and Finland. Biden came out and said in the last week, actually, I think just a couple of days ago, we're not going to skip it for Ukraine. And he made this comment, and I'm sorry, but I try to like Biden, but sometimes he drives me crazy. Biden goes, well, we can't expedite things for Ukraine. That would be unfair to everybody else, right? Ukraine's got to go through the same process everybody else, except we expedited it for Sweden and Finland. Sweden and Finland decided they wanted to join NATO after Russia invaded a year ago, right? Both countries would have been NATO members last fall if Turkey and Hungary weren't playing games. So we pretty much in 5 to 6 months, we're ready to make both countries members of NATO from zero. But now we're saying Ukraine can't because Biden's saying we would never want to expedite the process, except we did it already. So Biden, once again, I will say this, that what bothers, thank you, Sean. What bothers me with Biden is I don't like to get jerked around, okay? Or if I'm getting jerked around, I don't want to know about it. I can tell when Biden's jerking me around because he's not very good at it, okay? So Biden plays games. He played games with giving the weapons to Ukraine. He played games as far as which weapons we were going to give. Then he played games as far as dragging out when they were, like, how many weapons? HIMARS. We gave them 1 HIMARS. Then we gave another. Then the next month we gave them 2 more. Then the next month we gave them 2 more, right? This kind of crap. The tanks we dragged out forever. By the way, we agreed to give them the tanks in January. It's June. Those tanks will be lucky American tanks will be lucky if they arrive this year. The F-16s, we agreed like over a month ago on the F-16 thing. It's not going to be 4 months until we know who can even train until the U.S. gets right. He jerks. He's playing games with this. I'm sure he's not an idiot. He's not doing this just for fun. He has legitimate reasons, I'm sure, why he thinks we have to go slow on helping Ukraine. I think it's because he's afraid of Putin, but nonetheless, I think he does such a bad hiding the fact that he's going slow and that he's dragging it out slowly that he might as well just tell the truth at some point. Just tell me what's going on. But I'm watching him pretend like he's fully in support, and he's not. He's supports, but again, remember we talked about this actually months ago. I said Biden wants Ukraine to tie. He doesn't want Ukraine to win. He doesn't want Russia to win, but he doesn't want Ukraine to win. He wants both countries to tie, but a tie probably means Ukraine gets this back, but it doesn't get this back. The problem is if you hold back the amount of weapons so Ukraine can get this, but not this, that doesn't really work. If Ukraine's able to get this, they might be able to get this. So if you hold back weapons so they can't get Crimea, then they're going to have a hard time getting this too, which is what's happening right now. Anyway, all right. Enough of that. So anyway, France and Germany sound like they're on board for expediting the process for Ukraine joining NATO. Not a surprise from France and Great Britain. Not a great surprise from the UK, but a surprise from France. This is good news from France. Let me do a quick pitch for my work. If you guys would, I would appreciate you considering going over to Ko-fi.com. It's ko-fi.com/Aravosis. and sign up. Thank you, B. Smith. It's a way to support my work with a monthly donation or just a one-time donation. Either way, you guys can find the link at the bottom of the screen, ko-fi.com/Aravosis. You guys can find the link in my profile. Thank you, Nick. Just click the Linktree link in my TikTok profile, and the very first thing that comes up is the Ko-fi site. You also can just go to aravosis.com, my last name, and it will bring up all the lists of my links, and the first one is Ko-fi. Very simple. Do a one-time donation if you can. If you really can, thank you, Kanowski, for the elephants. If you really can, do a monthly donation. That would be the best. It would help me out the most. Again, I only ask folks to do that if you can afford to do it, but if you can, please do. We'll talk a little bit later about the fact that if you do a monthly donation, it makes you a Discord VIP member as well, which gives you lots of auctions you can go to and lots of other stuff. But bottom line is, it helps support my work. So I appreciate it. Thanks, guys. ko-fi.com/Aravosis. Okay. Germany reportedly has sent Ukraine another Patriot missile system with missiles. That was announced today. That's a big deal. I will put one caveat out there. I don't know if anybody has seen this story. There was one caveat. Germany released a document, but it almost looked like Germany was listing everything they've given. I'm trying to remember, where did the two Patriot... Ukraine currently has two Patriot missile systems, or it did. Who did they come from? They came from two different countries. I'm going to guess one was American, but one was from a European country. Does anybody remember? I'm not actually quizzing you. I'm asking because I don't recall. But Germany, in any case, Germany would be the third, which is fabulous. Thank you, Kanowski, for the chef's kiss. If anybody knows, beep, 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 beep. US and UK, Germany. Was it Germany though? Never. Everyone's. All right. I'm seeing John is saying the British gave them. So what is the Brits? Okay, here's the only reason I ask. Okay? Because 5% of me is worried that the story going around may be reporting what Germany already did. That's my question. Germany was the second one. That's my concern. So I will put this out there. There was a story, and the story was a little vague from the Kyiv Independent. Not even vague. The story from the Kyiv Independent said Ukraine was getting another one. I went and checked the German document, checked the English translation, and the English translation of the German document today talking about aid made me feel it was unclear. I will say this, German foreign ministry out there, not written very well for English. It was vague as to whether Germany was listing everything it's done for Ukraine or everything new that it's offering in its new aid package, because it mentioned the Patriot and missiles, but I wasn't sure if they meant this was a new Patriot missile system. It sounded like a new Patriot missile system. Thank you, Delaney. So now that I've said all of that, I'm gonna put it out there with a little caveat. Okay. If somebody wants to actually Google while we're talking, maybe just Google and see if it hit the news yet. Because like I said, this was on the government website, which, who's winning the war? We don't know. The Russians control 17% of Ukraine. They got stuck as of last fall. They haven't done any better. The Ukrainians pushed the Russians back a lot, and the Ukrainians are now trying to get their land back. It's going very slowly, but we're not really surprised that it's very slow. Patriot systems are not cheap. That is true, Hayes. The Patriot missile systems, I remember this, cost $1 billion with a B, $1 billion for the actual entire system, because the Patriot missile system is like 4 different components, radar, launcher, all this kind of stuff. Any case, yeah. The Latvia's prime minister today said that his country is completing the transfer of all of its helicopters to Ukraine. All of its military helicopters Latvia gave to Ukraine, which is pretty wild and pretty cool. For a small country to be doing that much is pretty neat. The U.S. announced another $1.3 billion with a B dollar aid package. The main goals of the package are to help restore Ukraine's power system and infrastructure and modernize checkpoints on the Ukrainian border. So it's not all the cool military stuff, I should say, that we know, right? Who knows, Hang on a second. Mario says the website of the German government lists all given and planned equipment. Mario, if you want to take a look, because the thing I saw today, like I said, Kyiv Independent linked to it, and Kyiv Independent said it was a new Patriot missile promise. I read the document from the Germans, and a part of my brain, this is one thing I've learned, by the way, over the years. You don't just trust somebody else's summary of something else. By the way, could be me as making the mistake as well. So I clicked through and read the German document in English, and the German document to me sounded almost like I said, like it was the Germans stating what they already gave, not what they're giving new. So if somebody wants to check, I'm curious if the Germans are giving a new Patriot missile battery or whether that was just Germany reiterating what it's done. The European Union agreed on the 11th round of sanctions against Russia. The European Union has, oh, this was an interesting story. So listen to this. Hang on, quick sip of tea. The European Union, this was a story in Bloomberg today, assessed that it cannot legally confiscate frozen Russian assets. The issue is there's like 200 to 300 billion with a B dollars worth of Russian assets that the Europeans control. They're frozen. They wanted to take those assets and use them for Ukraine. The problem is that, hang on. I'm sorry, B. Smith, I see your thing, but okay. You know, at some point, B. Smith, we got to teach you how to put questions in because the problem is the way, real quick, guys, on TikTok, I got to explain this. The way the system works, it saves when you guys put a super chat question in, it makes a list for me of the questions. So everyone else's super chat question I can pull up except yours, because with me, it just pulls up the fact that you gave the dollar. It doesn't show me your question. I don't know what you're doing, if some of the mods can help you somehow, but or somebody who on YouTube who knows how to do the super chat questions, but you've got to figure it out because now I don't know what your question is. And I can't find it because it's scrolled by. The system actually saves me all the questions, but it's with the donation itself. So yours doesn't have anything. Everyone else's has the question. If any of the mods want to scroll back, maybe you could see B. Smith typically puts the question right after the donation. So if you want to take a look, maybe you can see it. I'll take a quick look. Oh, no, it's right there. It's right there. There it is. Never mind. It's right there. Okay. It wasn't too many questions today. So, but somehow try to figure out what's going wrong. Do you think the war, sorry, B. Smith is asking with the super chat question, and I always promise I get to the super chat questions. Do you think the war in Ukraine makes NATO a failure because it was created to promote peace and prevent wars? The thing is, NATO was, well, okay. On its face, NATO was meant to prevent wars in Europe among NATO members, in part, right? I mean, I'm trying to remember because, like, I studied. Oh, hey, Pishka in Ukraine, in Odessa. Nice to meet you. I'm trying to remember because I studied this stuff in graduate school back. We're talking 1985, so it's been a while that I've read sort of the theory on all of this, but I know European Union, and I'm thinking NATO similarly. I would think, from what I recall, NATO was probably two things. One, clearly concerns about the Soviets. Okay, that's obvious. But two, concerns about Europe itself fighting amongst itself, right? The French and the Germans especially. And this is also an EU issue from what I remember with that. So the idea of NATO was to bind all of these countries together and to make it so that they become allies, they work together, the militaries, everything. I mean, it's a military EU to some degree, right? A European Union. And the idea is that thank you, John, for that, and Teresa. Hopefully, France and Germany are less likely to go to war against each other if they're all both part of the same military alliance. And same concept with the EU. Secondly, it's to prevent the Soviet Union at the time from attacking any of those countries. In other words, what's the word I'm looking for? What's the word? Providing an incentive, providing a disincentive for Russia to attack. Right? I'm forgetting what the word is here, but you know what I mean. And it was very effective in that, right? The Soviet Union did not attack NATO. And the French and the Germans not only got along, but they ended up working together. And now there isn't any concern about France and Germany going to war, right? So I would argue that NATO has been very effective. The question is, NATO, I mean, you can't, deterrent is the word. Thank you. That's the word I was looking for. I'm like, negative incentive. That's not the word, deterrent. The problem is that when you're looking at countries on NATO's border, NATO, I mean, you get into an interesting question with what you raised, which is to what degree was NATO meant to be, preserving the peace on its borders as well, right? Not just itself. And I think that's kind of secondary. So I don't think, also, I would say that, I mean, it's not clear to me. Look, NATO still isn't, sort of jumping in feet first into helping Ukraine, really. You know, I mean, NATO has done amazing helping Ukraine, but there's still that reticence. And honestly, we're seeing it more and more from the United States, from Biden. So in any case, yeah, I don't see failure. No, I really don't. I really don't. Because Ukraine was not why NATO exists. NATO did not exist to protect countries that are not part of NATO, but that doesn't mean we're not going to try, because we do see this is a threat to NATO, what Russia's doing, because it's a resurgent Russia. It's Russia turning back into the Soviet Union, at least in terms of its malevolence, its ill will, its aggressiveness, its inferiority complex mixed with a superiority complex, right? The Russians think their system is the best thing since sliced bread. They're the only people on the planet. I mean, literally, I always say this, but we get like 2 million people a year trying to cross the US border illegally from Latin America, trying to come to America. 2 million people try to come here illegally. How many people try to come to Russia illegally every year? Nobody around the world pines for the Russian dream. Gosh, if I could only go to Russia, if I could make it in Russia, I can make it anywhere, right? Whereas America, they do. Europe, they do. Nobody, the refugees from Africa, from North Africa, they go to Europe. Nobody sits there and says, I landed in Italy, but God, I wish I could be in Moscow, right? Other than, correct, Steven Seagal does. In any case, the final thing I was going to tell you, two things really quick. CNN reports that multiple sources have told it that it appears increasingly likely that the 31 NATO member countries will not be able to coalesce around a candidate to be the alliance's next Secretary General, and Jens Stoltenberg, who's the current Secretary General, will remain in the job for another year. The Secretary General is kind of the civilian head of NATO. We have a military head, a general appointed by the U.S., and this civilian head is kind of a political head. Stoltenberg, who's the former Norwegian prime minister, has been the Secretary General of NATO since 2014. And his term was renewed once already. He said that he had no plans to renew it again, but it now is apparently getting, I mentioned this last week, it looks like it's getting difficult trying to pick a new person. The Brits would like Ben Wallace, their defense secretary, to be it. Somebody just said right now Ben Wallace pulled his name out. The French are demanding it be somebody from the continent, not from Great Britain. The Americans, my guess is, probably would like Wallace, would be my guess, probably a Brit. And because they can't agree, thank you, Nico, because they can't agree, it looks like maybe they'll extend for another year with Stoltenberg, which isn't a terrible idea anyway, because he's the guy right now, and we're in the middle of a war. And we are in the middle of a war, even whether we're not fighting or not. We are in the middle of a war. Final point. Oh, yeah. Vladimir Putin went off today about, Sosat. They kind of did. Vladimir Putin today went off about a new ICBM, their Satan 2 missile, whatever it is, with the MIRVs. Anyway, he's talking about some new ICBM. They're going to, thank you, Timothy, which is an intercontinental ballistic missile that, carries nuclear missiles and can hit America and Europe and blah, blah, blah. Again, I don't care. I mean, I really don't. In the end, sure, the arms control specialists are going to need to look at it, figure out what threat it poses. But in the end, and I've said this before, if Russia attacks us with nukes, thank you, Kanausi, we will attack Russia with nukes. We will destroy Russia. Russia will destroy us, but we'll destroy Russia in return. They will not be able to hit our nuclear submarines, and our nuclear submarines will destroy them. And that is why, with their nuclear missiles, that is why Russia will not be using its nuclear missiles against us, and we will not be using our nuclear missiles against them. Yes, there's always a risk, right? I mean, anything can happen, but generally speaking, thank you, Kanausi, I don't particularly care if Russia's launching some new missile. I mean, again, I'll leave it for the folks that are working on arms control right now and the defense types to worry about, the details of it. But generally speaking, I just don't care. I mean, no, but this is The Hall World? I hope I'm not destroying the Hall World. Sorry, we have a troll. We had a troll that just wrote, "You will destroy," in all caps, "You will destroy the Hall," Hall, the Hall World. Okay. Yeah, well, groovy. I don't know what to tell you. All right, guys, that's it for the news today. We will do question and answer next. Remember, I do my coffee talk Saturday mornings, 11 a.m. Eastern time, US, excuse me, where we'll hang out with the paid subscribers on TikTok, the paid subscribers on YouTube, and hang. So join us then and become definitely paid as well. You guys can become a paying subscriber on TikTok. And as I said, you can go to coffee.com, ko-fi.com/Aravosis, and you can become, well, you can pay once if you want to just donate, but you can become a monthly member, and the monthly member makes you a VIP member of my Discord community. Real quick, just a reminder. So the Discord, I won't show you the auction stuff right now because the auctions end on Wednesday. So most of the auctions are over, but we've got actually, well, now that I say that, I may grab one or two things. Okay. I do an auction every week on my Discord community, discord.aravosis.com. And it's to raise money for Ukraine and to raise money for my work because I do this full time and I've got to rely on your guys' gifts to pay the salary, which, by the way, just to remind you, keep the gifts coming on TikTok and keep the gifts coming on YouTube, the super chats and super stickers, because that's literally how I pay my bills. And thank you, TikTok novice, for responding immediately. You are lovely. But one of the ways I do it as well and also help Ukraine is I do auctions of cool stuff I get from Ukraine on Discord, and then send half the money we make directly to Ukraine. My friend Vlad is there and spends it on humanitarian aid, helping the military, making camouflage nets, helping people with disabilities, you name it. Thank you, Alyssa. But also half the money goes to support my work. Thank you, Red Watts, which is nice too. Let me go. Thank you, Red Watts. I'm going to literally 20 seconds. I'm going to grab one or two of the auction items for next week. They're not live yet. So I'm warning you, if you go to thank you, Allie, you will not see them if you go to the Discord right now, but I've got them ready for next week. I'm literally like maybe one or two. Hold on. Because they're very cool. I'm going to show a couple things. I'm excited actually about this week's auction because there's a lot of cool stuff. There's a lot of really cool stuff. So among the things, I've got to translate it. Oh, thank you, Jetta Mom. Cool Russian military patch from a Ukrainian soldier in Ukraine. Got the patch from a Russian. I will show you. I have to translate it. All I can read is хорошо in the end. Smert. So you guys, but it's now this, my guess is this is probably a patch from the Wagner Group because of the skull. The skull is typically in Wagner Group patches, which is the mercenary group. Unless we've got a Ukrainian translating really quick, let me do the Google Translate, which usually does this pretty well. Hang on here. All right. Oh yeah. Yeah, there you go. Thank you. Maria's already writing it. Our business is death and business is going very well. Yeah, death is our business and business is going well. It is Russian, big surprise, but it is probably Wagner Group because of the skull. That's typically the Wagner Group. Anyway, very interesting. Second thing, a Kalush Orchestra fridge magnet, but I like this a lot because it's really pretty, the colors. This is the band that won the Eurovision Song Contest a year ago from Ukraine, very famous, and it's a fridge magnet, but I love the coloring on it because I just think it's a beautiful, you have to sort of see it in person to appreciate the color. It's just beautiful. I'll even like turn it this way, you can see. The coloring is just really, the coloring is gorgeous on it. Two other things. I love these. These were donated to me, and God bless the people that a high school kid was using these as gifts for donors when he was raising money for Ukraine. Oh, I'm forgetting. Ivan, I'm forgetting your last name. I saw his mom contacted me. He's in college now and had some extras. Watch bands that are compatible with Apple Watches, but they're in the colors of the Ukrainian flag. They're not Apple brand, right? They're the third party knockoffs, but their Apple Watch compatible watch bands, which I think is very cool. And the final, I mean, there's like 8 or 10 things. I'm not going to show you all. The final one is very cool. For me, at least, I almost kept this one. I will tell you. It is. I will show you this. It is a toiletry bag, meaning a shaving kit. Anything a man would use in the bathroom, his shaving kit, his razor, things of, right? You see, like, remember how how they've got the little hook on them? But it is a Russian military shaving bag. I say shaving bag. It's everything. Normally it would unzip. It's a little destroyed. It's used and it's a little destroyed. Something, I'm not sure what, something happened that destroyed the zipper. You can see here and here. The zipper was destroyed. There's a big rip here at the bottom. All I'm saying is it's from Ukraine, it's Russian, and something happened. But what I really like about this one, it's from Ukraine. Ukrainian soldiers got it. What I really like about this one is it says Armia Rossi on it. It's got the emblem. It says Russian Army on it with a red star. Look at that. Armia Rossi, which I think is amazing. Absolutely amazing. So anyway, auctioning this off as well. Lots of other cool stuff, but half the money will go to Ukraine. Half of it will go to support my work. So thank you all very much. You can check. Oh, they're not live yet. They're going to go up. I might do them tonight. My guess is I'll probably put them up tomorrow. Thank you, Jedamon, for the gift. I'll probably put them. Let me put it this way. They will be up by tomorrow. Are they called mess kits? Toiletry DOP kit. People are calling them toiletry or a DOP kit. Okay. I will write that down so I know. Thank you, Jed. Who was that? Red Watts toiletry kit? DOP kit. Anyway, I think it's cool. There's a lot of other really cool stuff. It's all stuff we got from Ukraine. Yeah, it's all stuff we've gotten from Ukraine. I can read in Russian. Yes, I'd studied Russian for a year in college. I did a very bad job of it, but you learn the alphabet and you learn little bits of words. So I always tell people, like, я говорю, I'm already chipping. Я говорю немного по-русски. Очень хорошо. Or no, не очень хорошо. So that's I can speak a little, I can speak not much Russian or just a little bit of Russian and not very well, but I can certainly read words. That's easy, So anyway, all right. I had a scary book because I had a Russian teacher in college at University of Illinois, and this is back in 1981. So this is the middle of the Cold War. Okay. And this guy was like a Nazi. I mean, he was like, he escaped from the Soviet Union, and I think he still thought he was in the Soviet Union. He was the worst teacher ever. He was so nasty. I mean, it was very hard. I learned a lot of vocabulary. The grammar, I will say, for Russian grammar, incredibly difficult for my tastes. It reminds me of Greek grammar. He was Russian. Oh, he was Russian. All right. Yeah. He was Soviet, and had only been in the States a few years. Russian grammar is like Greek grammar or German grammar. I'm told. I'm familiar with Greek grammar, like German grammar, where the words change. Like I'm going to the post office is different word for post office than the post office. Oh my God. Oh, I hated the grammar, but the language was fun and the words are fun. And I hope to use it going to Ukraine, and I'll just, enough Ukrainians either speak Russian or understand Russian. They hopefully won't mind. All right. Let me go and do Q&A now. TikTokers, remember to submit questions via the Q&A link in my profile. Just because it's easier. Like French declination, but French doesn't have declinations. What do you mean? In what sense do you mean French has declinations? I speak French, not like that. Because like in Greek, for example, George is Yorgos. I'm giving the ball to George is like, Vino to bola. I don't know. To bola. What do you call a ball? To a ball, whatever the ball is, sto Yorgo. All of a sudden, so it's Yorgos. And then it becomes, I'm giving the ball to Yorgo. Or it is Yorgo's ball would be in a to ball or whatever to Yorgu. So George becomes Georgiou when it's possessive. I'm giving the ball to George, but he is George's. You change the noun based on where it is in the sentence. It's horrible. It's absolutely horrible. And the Russians do the same thing, and the Germans do the same. So anybody who knows German knows what I'm talking about. But as an American, oh, I'm sure the Ukrainians do, of course, because it's a Slavic language. Bala, is it Bala? I was thinking that was my Gringlish, my American version. What Tobala? Is it Tobala? I don't even know. Anyway, like I said, I thought that was Greek American. No, it's not easy. I mean, what do you do? What do you do? I mean, George, thanks, George. But I'm at some point going to hopefully go to Ukraine in the next few months if I can, at least to southwestern Ukraine to visit Vlad. And if I do, I'm going to get my Duolingo and at least brush up on my Russian. I tried brushing up on Ukrainian. It was so damn hard, because I know enough Russian that Ukrainian just started confusing me. So because I would see a word and almost like even the word for today, I know сегодня, and it's something close, like spodod. It's something close, but not quite the same in Ukrainian. And every new word I'm going, oh shit, I used to know that word. So in any case, all right, let's go to questions, guys. All right, questions. Which language? Dimir? Which language is yours? Dimir saying, Dimir Garufi, our language is difficult according to most expats I know, unless they're Arabic. What is your language? Dimir over on YouTube. Hey, Denis, Slava Ukraini, or would you say Heroam Slava? I think that's the response. All right, let me pull up TikTok questions. All right. Oh, Maltese. Interesting. Yeah, I don't know anything about your language, although I would imagine your language in Malta, which would be a mixture, I would think, of Italian and possibly French and maybe even Greek and Arabic and all those kind of thrown in together. Icelandic grammar, no idea. I'm dying to go to Iceland. We have a neighbor back home who's from Iceland who's very funny. I love him. He's really a nice guy and very funny man. Back in Chicago. So I've always wanted to go to Iceland. It's one of those things. Where did you go to law school? Georgetown, a very long time ago, and got my JD there. I know it's no, that's a good question. I don't know. I know it's for good, but why would Latvia give all its helicopters away? That's a really good question. I was thinking that myself I mentioned earlier that Latvia has given all its at least military helicopters to Ukraine, all of them. That was, Deb is saying getting new ones. That was my suspicion has America promised to give new ones to Latvia, for example? I mean, actually think about this. One thing the U.S. could do, hey, thank you, JRD, for the gift there. One thing the U.S. could do is the U.S. can only spend a certain amount of money on the war. I should say the president, until Congress provides more money. Congress provides the exact amount of money the president can spend. The president spends until he reaches that limit, and then Congress has to appropriate more money, right? Well, you can get around, I just thought about this now. You can get around that if you need money, for example, for Latvia, if you need money for Estonia, like for other countries in the region that aren't Ukraine. So you're not helping the war, but Biden slips into the budget that he needs money to get helicopters for Latvia. Well, he needs the helicopters for Latvia because Latvia gave the helicopters to Ukraine, but he's not getting money for Ukraine. So it's might be a way of getting around some of those budget limits. I don't know, but I would suspect that Latvia got some kind of a promise to get additional helicopters. I would think. Having said that, if you're Latvia, I was just going to say, shiver my timbers, just saying, because they know life under the USSR, Ukraine is defending the whole of the EU. That's the second point. Latvia was part of the Soviet Union and brutally part of the Soviet Union. They know what the Russians are like. They know how bad the Russians are. And they know that by giving their helicopters to Ukraine, they are making an investment in their own security because they're right there on the border with Russia. Well, I always forget. It's Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia. So does Latvia just border Belarus and not Russia? I always forget, but they're close enough. They're close enough to Russia right there. So from their perspective, they may feel like, you know what? if Russia invades us, we're in trouble anyway. Our helicopters aren't going to make a difference. They might make a difference for Ukraine. It may just be very selfless, which is kind of amazing. Latvia does border Russia. Okay. But Estonia is on top, right? I keep trying to remember. I'm almost sure Estonia is on top, so that it begins to border it with Latvia, and then Estonia is probably all Russia, I'm going to guess. Okay, good. Still trying to get my Baltic geography down. How is Ukraine going to clear tons of landmines placed by Russia? Well, again, I would defer to some of the military folks out there. Latvia's in the middle. That's what I thought, and then Estonia. But for example, and I've watched videos of this very interestingly, one of the ways, there's two different questions actually embedded in your question. The question was, how is Ukraine going to get rid of the Russian landmines? Two answers. One, for the counteroffensive, Ukraine doesn't have to get rid of all of the landmines. Thank you, Succeed. Ukraine just has to get rid of enough landmines to make a path through the field of landmines, because obviously the Russians have not put landmines where the Russians themselves are, because they would run into them, right? So the landmines are in front of the Russians, and the Ukrainians have to come through the landmine field. But to get through the field, they only need to cut a path or 3 paths or whatever. They don't need to clear every part of the field. One of the ways they do it, I only learned this in the last year. Like I said, I'm a foreign policy guy, not a military guy. But they've got a system, U.S., and I'm sure the Europeans have it too, where you shoot like a cord or a wire. I mean, I'll say a rope. It's not a rope, that has all sorts of little bombs on it, basically. And this long wire goes out. What's the distance, guys? 100 feet? Or is it longer than 100 feet? Is it 100 meters? I don't recall. And then it lands on the ground, and then they blow up the entire length of rope, and it blows up hopefully every 100 meters. There are 300 feet, even better. So it's a wire bomb in essence. So 100 meters, 300 feet. So it goes and then blows up along that entire path, and in principle sets off every landmine in that path. Well, now you've got a path cleared that a tank and a truck and others can potentially go through. Right? So that's one way. Now, your larger question is, what does Ukraine do itself after the war? Because Ukraine has a ton of territory with landmines. And that's a much bigger problem. And that's a problem that the United Nations has talked about before, because they're worried about children eventually finding them. Trying to know where these landmines are could be really difficult in the long run. I remember when I was in Greece when I was a kid. I was 13 or 14. Anyway, maybe 1977. And we went to visit the site of Marathon. We say Marathon in Greek. And it's a city kind of outside of Athens that is famous for its marathon, right? For, in the olden, the height of the Greek, the Hellenic age, right? And I remember when we went there, at least in 1977, there was a sign up that said, "Don't go off the path because there are mines." And there were mines in the grass still, and they were not able to get them all. So that if you walked off the path, it could be really dangerous. That one stuck in my head. I was like, "Holy shit, that's really scary." But I'm going to guess there's probably other parts of Europe because of World War II. Where there are there parts of Europe that are still a problem with mines? Even Marathon, I don't know whether it finally got cleared. It's been a long time, Oh, wow. French farmers still find World War II munitions, says R1. Jeffrey's saying there are still parts of Europe that are not accessible due to mines from the World War. Interesting. Oh, that's interesting. We still find mines in Norway, says Otanbat. Bosnia. Oh, okay. Actually, that makes sense. You're right. Because former Yugoslavia, you had wars there. Croatia, same thing, former Yugoslavia. Vietnam, sure. I mean, I was curious about Europe, though, but Vietnam, why not? Yep. Serbia still mined. UK finds munitions in fields on average twice a day. In the UK? Well, how do you get munitions in the UK? In the UK? What are the munitions from? You know what I mean? Like, who put mines down in the UK? Sorry, I'm just curious what Callum has to respond to that. That's kind of weird. I believe you, but you know what I mean? Like, who would? I mean, right? German air bombs dropping mines, but dropping mines, or you mean dropping unexploded bombs? Okay, unexploded bombs. That's still interesting though. Wow, unexploded bombs from the Germans bombing London back in 1940s, whenever it was. Thank you for the paper crane there, Elizabeth. They're still finding 2 unexploded bombs a day in the UK. Wow, that's wild. Okay, I just wasn't. I was thinking you meant mines. I was like, where are the mines coming? 500-pound bombs. That's amazing. All right, more questions. Hang on. Boom. Wasn't just London. Wow, that's wild though. Yeah, Laos. Oh yeah, I'm sure Asia for sure. Well, what we did, so Sally is saying, I just wanted to ask if the USA says they're not yet training Ukrainians on F-16s, why are we training Ukrainian pilots in simulators right now? Depends who you mean by we. Thank you to LWD. That was a very generous gift of you on TikTok, the travel thingy. Thank you. Depends what you mean by we. The US is not, in principle, is not training any Ukrainians to fly on anything. What happened several months ago was we had like 2 Ukrainian pilots. And thank you, Courtney, for the gift on TikTok. We had 2 Ukrainian pilots, and we put them through a series of exercises on training, whatchamacallums, flight simulators. And we thank you, Courtney. We did it to see how well they could handle it. And that's how we found out that the Ukrainians did so much better than we expected. And it would probably only take 4 months for a skilled pilot, a skilled Ukrainian pilot, to learn how to fly an F-16. So we were not training them, we were testing them. Now, anyway, there you go. There you go. So will the U.S. send Apache helicopters? I don't know. Has there been any talk about the U.S. sending attack helicopters? Or if so, if not, why not? As always, there's concern. I don't know about Apaches. There's always a question of I am wearing the map today. Yes. Crusher bought me the map. So I'm wearing it the thing is, it's a really nice t-shirt. So Crusher bought me the map. So I'm wearing it as a t-shirt, but I also have, the map as the map as well. We're a matching set today, just to be a little weird. Anyway, more questions. Hang on here. I don't want to lose lose all of next week's auctions. Oh, and the other thing I found out today, which was kind of cool. Sorry, YouTubers, I can't do this, but on TikTok, I just found out today for TikTok subscribers. Actually, at the end of the show, I'm going to do this for 5 minutes just to test it. For the paid TikTok subscribers, I can thank you, Tom, for the gift there. I can turn on the paid TikTok subscribe thing while I'm live. So at the end of the show, I'm just going to do it for 5 minutes. I can stay live with you guys for 5 minutes as like our own private thing, just for fun, for the paid TikTok subscribers. Again, sorry, YouTubers, etc. There's no way to sort of synchronize all of this stuff, but it's kind of a cool little extra thing, which I thought was interesting. So we'll try it at the very end just for fun. Any more questions, guys? Either on YouTube or TikTok. Otherwise, I'll look here. I'm sure there was a few more here on TikTok. I thought this was kind of weird. Yeah. So Biden today, Thanatos is saying Biden today or yesterday called Xi of China dictator, which is really weird. Actually, Magical saying he read that the training in the Apache helicopters might be too difficult. Yes, I know about the comments for subscribers only. That I knew. I didn't realize that I could literally just do like in the middle of the show. Excuse me, in the middle of the show, I could just click the button and then only the subscribers would still be on, which is kind of cool. Biden yesterday made a comment about President Xi of China and saying that he's a dictator and he didn't know about the spy balloon. He didn't know about the spy balloon, that one from a couple months ago, until I shot it down. And then when I did, he was surprised. And, being a dictator, the last thing dictators like are surprises because they like to be in charge of everything. Well, the Chinese are all upset. I mean, first of all, you have to left. The Chinese are all upset that, Biden called Xi a dictator. He's a dictator. It's a communist dictatorship. I mean, it's kind of like, really? Seriously? But in any case, what's interesting to me is why Biden did it. And I don't know why Biden did it. I really don't. It could be that Biden because here's the thing. It's true, but it's also, it strikes Ariel saying as a stupid remark. It feels like a stupid remark to me because Blinken just went over and was trying to kind of, smooth things out between the US and China to some degree. This does not help. The only thing, well, not the bear, I guess, is poking the panda or poking, unless that was a joke bone. the Pooh Bear, China, unless Biden wanted to tick off China, which maybe he did, maybe he wanted to poke uh, Xi for some reason. If he didn't, then I'm not sure why you do it, even though it's true, but I'm not sure why you would do it. I just really don't know. Anyway, it was weird. It was a weird story. It kind of felt like Biden may have screwed up, but again, Biden may have done it on purpose. I hang on a second. Hold on a second here. Pull up here. Well, you can throw your question up, Matthew. I can try to look at it there or in here. Nick. Well, I don't know. Nick is saying totally off topic, but what the hell? Did you see the people stuck in the submarine? And why do you ever do that? Okay. I would be freaked out to be in that submersible because it's way too small and I can get claustrophobic. That would freak me out. Having said that, to visit the Titanic, if I thought it was safe, oh my God, I would do that in a flash if I could afford it. But to visit the Titanic, but I'm not going to visit it in a small boy in a plastic bubble. That I'm not doing. It's way too small and it would have scared the hell out of me. I mean, I couldn't have standed it. But I would so do it. Are you kidding me? I think it would be totally cool to visit that wreckage. Oh my God. For my taste, at least, really. I mean, will Ukraine go after the bridge again before pushing to Crimea? Yeah, I don't know what the plan. I mean, obviously, I don't know what the plan is. That question is about the Kerch Bridge, which is in southern Ukraine. Right along. Okay, so this is the area Russia grabbed in 2014. This is the area Russia grabbed in the last year. Right across the bridge, there's a town of Kerch, Kerch, in Ukraine, right here. And then there's a bridge that Putin built that goes maybe 12 miles, I don't know, 15 kilometers, whatever it is, and then connects to Russia. So then Russia continues over here, it goes up here, etc. Okay. This is the bridge that someone, presumably Ukraine, but we don't know. It might have been Russians working with the Ukrainians, hard to know, blew up last September, October. It was last fall or so. Really pissed Putin off because it's a big deal it was a big deal for Putin's ego, but also very important for supplying Crimea, right, during the war effort, especially. Ukraine will clearly go for it again. I think the question is going to be twofold in terms of when Ukraine blows up this bridge. A, it has to have the ability to blow it up. The question is what it will use and how much it will take. I remember last fall, people were talking about using HIMARS to go after it. And they said the HIMARS, you'd need like 50 of the HIMARS missiles, which would, let's assuming you're even in range. 50 of the HIMARS missiles would be too many to waste, right? To attack the bridge down here. Well, now you've got these British cruise missiles. The British cruise missiles get a lot more interesting. The thing is, I don't know how many British cruise missiles you need to destroy the bridge. So again, it becomes an issue of whether it's worth taking it down now, and how much damage would you do to it, right? Yeah, Storm Shadow is the British cruise missile, exactly. How much damage would you do, right? If you don't do enough damage, they're going to fix it. There was some talk about possibly the Ukrainians don't want to blow the bridge up right now because they want to, if there's a chance of the Russian troops basically running for the hills, they wouldn't mind the Russians just leaving, right? But I don't know. There's clearly, especially now that they've got the British weapons. But as I said, I'm not sure anything can reach it yet other than the British cruise missiles that Ukraine has. And those might be too high quality, too high caliber to use. You know what I mean? Like too much, not just expensive, but too nice of a bomb to use for that is my guess. And once they get closer, then all sorts of other things kick in, right? Because currently the line between Ukraine and Russian troops goes along the river here, then it kind of cuts over here to Donetsk, then it kind of goes up more or less. So all of this is Russian controlled, So to get all the way down here, you're coming from like up here, right? I'll do this from like up here. Well, if the Ukrainians are able to get down to Melitopol or even the coast, now they're, almost half the distance. That means other weapon systems potentially. Oh, I saw the gift coming from Tugas. Thank you, Tugas, for the gift. Suddenly, you've got a possibility of using other weapon systems that maybe becomes more cost effective. I don't know. Well, they could. I mean, Jens is saying they should knock out the rail bridge and leave the roadway for a Russian retreat. Yeah, the bridge going across has rail. There's like a 2 train lines and then 2 lane roads. So road line. I don't know. They've got a reason for not going after it. It may also be shock and awe. They may be saving it for some big attack they're planning, knowing the Ukrainians, right? There's probably something big they're going after. Let me look here. Are these new? I don't know. Thank you for the multiple gifts. Hello, Red Watts for the boxing robe and Martin for the knight helmet. Thank you. Mark is saying the UK has sent a couple of modified Challenger T modified Challenger. Oh, Challenger. Are these new ones you're saying or what? That's what. Thank you, Red. I didn't see that. From Africa told Russia to stop the war. I did not see that. Thank you, Tyson. Appreciate that. Did your hair change? I thought you were like a brunette yesterday in the picture. You confused me with your hair, but thank you. That was sweet of you. You know what? Maybe when your picture's smaller, it looks dark. On Discord, I thought it looked brunette now, and now it looks blonde hair. So I got a neighbor like that. He changes his hair color all the time. So I'm always like, oh, hey. So much fun. No update on the nuclear plant, really. I mean, still concerns about whether Russia might try to bomb it. Not try to bomb it, whether Russia, bomb it in the sense, thank you, Magical, for the confetti, might try to blow it up by destroying the coolant system. Supposedly they put mines there, according to the Ukrainians, but no update, really. Magical was saying, what's the status of the flooding and the people from the dam that was destroyed? You did change it. Okay, thank you. Because I thought you turned brunette and now you're kind of blondish again. All right. I see. You say men don't pay attention to the hair. The men try to pay attention to your hair. Women get upset that guys never notice. There really isn't much of an update on the flooding. I mean, the number of dead is only like 40 confirmed or something, which obviously sounds like way too few. But there's just there isn't much of an update. I mean, the waters are receding. I will say this, the waters were supposed to recede around now by the 20th or the 21st. So I'm not sure what the story is with that, but they were supposed to recede. But there wasn't really any big flood news today at all, really. We'll do a couple more questions, guys, and then we'll call it quits. How many foreign volunteers are fighting for Ukraine? Nope. Would Poland be the largest source? Nope. No idea. At one point, I thought the number was like 20,000 wanted to, but I don't know how many Ukraine chose. I also don't know to what degree they're making much of a difference. There were some articles talking about how it was kind of hard for it's 500, the foreign volunteers, you mean, Kelly? That in the end, it was hard to incorporate them into Ukrainian units because they don't speak the language. And, they haven't trained with Ukrainians. So it may, I don't know whether, I don't know. Thank you, Zink. I do know like some people like Sam, who's one of our regulars. He's there helping train Ukrainians. So you've got that going on for sure. Okay. You live in Ontario, minimal French. Well, I saw your name, Maria. I thought maybe you were a Marie with the way your French is named or your name's written. That's funny. What's happening on the Russian side of the flood area? We don't know because the Russians won't let rescuers in there. There was a story in the last day that the Russians were also stealing rescue supplies for humanitarian aid going to the flood victims, that the Russian troops stole it for themselves, which, classic, right? The UK. Oh, here we go. Sorry. Mark was saying the UK has sent specially modified Challenger 2 tanks equipped with dozen blades to clear landmines and trenches. Okay, so that's another way that they can clear the landmines. Okay, that's interesting. Oh, 500 flood victims. 500, they're saying. I only saw 40 today as far as dead. I would think it would be more in the 500 to a couple thousand, you'd think, potentially, Because like old people, what do you do? Thank you, Pam Pam. What do you do if you're old? You know what I mean? Like a grandma, grandpa types that are trapped in the village and the water's coming. Where do they go? They can barely walk. I mean, that's scary. Yeah. Um, I don't know about this. This is interesting. Haha, Rich is saying, oh, hang on, Rich, we'll go back to your question. Are the Ukrainians dropping air-rained propaganda, so dropping propaganda by air in Russian-controlled areas, letting civilians know the bombs are coming to evacuate? The one thing that did happen today was the Ukrainian government, or somebody with the Ukrainian government, came out and said, we're warning everybody to leave Crimea now that you can. Thank you, Pam Pam, that you need to get out and leave Crimea. So that was interesting. But the thing is, they wouldn't pamphlet and say we're about to bomb. First of all, because they wouldn't want to let the Russians know. Second of all, I don't know that that Ukraine is really doing a lot of bombing runs, because the Russians, still control the airspace more than the Ukrainians do. Or the Russians have air supremacy or whatever it is. But I don't know. So I don't know how many bombing runs are really happening from the Ukrainians, really, so that they wouldn't. It's not like they have to warn the people. They did it more publicly. Remember, like they were warning around Kherson. The Ukrainians were warning months ago for people to sort of get out of the area or whatever, so they wouldn't get hurt. And now they're warning it to. They are sending warnings to Crimea. That was out today. I don't know. PB&J is asking an interesting question. Is there any fundraising that you know of for covering the legal fees of the person that the UN is suing for tapping? Hang on a second. Oh, for taping. Yeah. So there was a really interesting story that the UN did some legal process against this person who you may have seen the picture. It was very funny. They went up to the UN cars, the UN vehicles, and the UN vehicles have like UN on the side, and they took a big piece of paper and just taped it to the car, and the paper has SELESS. So when you put it over the N, it becomes useless. And it's funny as hell. Well, the UN reportedly filed like a legal complaint against the person and all this kind of garbage. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. And you're saying, is there fundraising? I don't know, because I also don't know who did it. But it's kind of just, classic UN and ridiculous UN. I was going to mention real quick, Yulia has a new podcast that she wanted me to mention to you guys, and I did want to. She's a Ukrainian American, Ukraine. I don't know if you're American at all. Ukrainian creator, I should say, but based here in the U.S. And she has a new podcast up. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it's sort of. Let me look here. It's sort of keeping an eye on Russian propaganda and talking about how it's used and debunking it and all sorts of stuff. But you can, probably the best way is to check out her Beacons link, which is Beacons, beacons.ai/Yulia. Okay, girl, I need to help you at some point. Yulia is violating all of my rules of consulting on tech stuff. You always have to come up with a web address that is painfully easy. And what you do is you go and buy something else. So you buy something else and you point it at this address. But the problem here, okay, beacons.ai. So beacons, plural, .ai/Yulia, but Yulia is spelled funny. It's YEWLEEA. So beacons.ai/Yulia. WEL. Oh my God, I'm already screwing it up. Oh my God, I'm screwing it up. YEWLEEA. Oh, girl, we're going to talk. We are buying you a new URL. Thank you. Syndicate put it up. Thank you, Syndicate. Syndicate put it up in the YouTube. Folks can see it there. But yes, that's how you spell it. Yes. But it's very phonetic, but you want web addresses that are super easy. Bottom line, my free tip of the day. When you've got stuff like that, it's fine. But go and buy I could buy a web address, maybe listen to John, and see if that's available, maybe .org. So I would tell people, go to the web address, listen to, for example, my link of links, my link that my page that has all of my links, like Yulia's got there, all of my links to Beacons, which is not to Beacons, to Ko-fi, which is where you go to write this down. Ko-fi, which is where you go to give me the one-time or the ongoing monthly donations. It's got my PayPal. It's got my LinkedIn. That link of links you can find by typing in aravosis.com, my last name. Now, my last name is difficult, but if you go to the top of the screen, you'll see it. You go to aravosis.com, and then you can see all of my links. So at least it makes it a little easier, right? But those are the kind of things I tell clients to do. Find something shorter and easier, or it could be, like I said, listentojohn.com. That isn't an address I have. Something that's just that you can say, you don't have to spell for people. Anyway, my tip of the day. No, Brian is asking, have the Ukrainians made it to the first defensive line, or are they still fighting in the gray zone? They have not yet. They haven't advanced very far, really. So the issue is in, well, certainly the Ukrainians that are up here, but also the Ukrainians that are here. They're still short of the Russian lines. Thank you, Kanelsi. What I mean is the Russian defensive lines, which are the big defenses, the landmines. I mean, the really big Russian defenses. They're not that close yet because they're advancing, but they're advancing very, very slowly. So that the big battle is going to happen when the Ukrainians finally decide to really try to cross the Russian lines. That's the issue. So no, not yet. All right, guys, I think let me do a quick wrap up, go over the news we covered, and then, like I said, just for fun, I'm going to say goodbye to you guys, and then I'm going to switch. I will switch TikTok to subscriber only just for fun for 5 minutes so I can see how it works. And the folks that are subscribers can just hang for a couple more minutes and then we'll go. All right. Quick recap of the news. Quick sip of water. Day 482 of Putin's 3-day special military operation. Kyiv suffered a massive drone attack from Russia, shot down 28 of the 30 drones. Russia says it downed 3 drones outside of Moscow today, presumably from Ukraine. Get rid of the, where is this? There you are, Brian. Thank you again for that, Brian. The Ukrainian troops have managed to take some ground towards Melitopol and Berdyansk, just a small amount. Ukraine's deputy defense minister said today that the biggest blow of the Ukrainian counteroffensive is yet to come. NATO, the UK and France look like they're willing to adopt or embrace fast track status for Ukraine joining NATO. Biden has said no. Thank you, DMR, for the gift there. Germany has sent Ukraine another Patriot missile, we believe, but I still want to confirm that. Latvia's prime minister said today that his country is completing the transfer of all of its helicopters to Ukraine. The U.S. announced another $1.3 billion aid package. The EU has agreed on an 11th sanctions package against Russia. The European Union has assessed that it can't legally confiscate outright frozen Russian assets. The issue here is that it would be against European law, they believe, to actually take the Russian money that's frozen in the banks and just give it to Ukraine. CNN reports that multiple sources have told it that it is increasingly likely that Jens Stoltenberg, the Secretary General of NATO, will be continued for another year in his position. And finally, Putin has another ICBM, intercontinental ballistic missile, that he launched or that he, put into use today or deployed. This is not even deployed. It's not even deployed. Typical Russian. I'm reading this more carefully. Would soon be deployed. I don't even believe I read that story. The classic Russian. The deployment was delayed. Now they finally claim they're rolling it out, and the rolling it out is it will soon be deployed, which means it's not deployed. So they still haven't gotten it ready yet, probably. So what do you do? Anyway, all right, guys, thanks for joining. As I said, TikTok, hang on a second. The subscribers, the SNN folks, I'm going to switch it to subscriber only just for fun. And the rest of you, I will say good night. We'll skip Discord tonight because I'm doing all of this. Otherwise, I will see you guys all tomorrow, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, U.S. And don't forget that I'm going to put up, probably not tonight, I'll probably do it tomorrow morning, a slew, 9 or 10 new auction items, including the cool stuff I showed you earlier. Really cool Russian military bag. And lots of other cool stuff. Knockoff Apple Watch band, Kalush Orchestra fridge magnet, very cool, and Russian military patch from Ukraine, among very cool things. Thank you, Tattooed, for the swan. All right, you guys, goodbye. You guys, SNN folks, paid subscribers, hang on a second on TikTok, and we will try that. Okay, guys, see you all tomorrow. Yep, thanks, Paula. Thanks, mods everywhere. You rock as always. Thanks, Otan.